I've been a scientist my whole life. And in all the science things I've done, I'm pretty sure that number 9 is like my least favorite thing in my history of science. I can say that. I can say that. When I was a little boy, my grandfather used to take care of me a lot because both my parents worked. And my grandfather was an old campesino. He was a farmer, he just like worked out in the fields. And my grandpa, because he grew up outside in a different country, like me, he was an immigrant. My grandfather was born in Denmark and immigrated to Argentina. So my grandpa grew up working in one place, Denmark, and then moved to Argentina where he had my mother and then helped raise me, and he worked outside there. So he was always looking outside, and he like learned all the birds and he learned all the trees, and he was a brilliant man, an inspiration to me. But I like to think I've been a scientist my whole life because when I was a little tiny boy, he'd be like, dude, go collect bugs and go collect lizards, and if you ever see a bird, we'll figure out what bird it is. And if you ever find a leaf, we'll figure out what tree it's from. And so he got me thinking about nature very, very early on. And when I was your age, I kept a whole bunch of fish and reptiles. When I went to college, I worked with all sorts of cool exotic plants at the university and exotic fish. And that was kind of the reason I got into genetics research was because I was there at first to help them keep fish in aquariums because I was a very good aquarist by then. Anyway, I've been a scientist my whole life. I consider myself a naturalist. And if you really get into science, you got to learn all the science. So I've gotten pretty good with physics, pretty good with chemistry. And the one thing that just never sticks with me is number 9. I just hate those terms about physics. They all make sense if you just memorize the definition, right? Potential energy is the amount of energy a thing can use in a given system. Potential. So you push a car up the hill and it's gaining potential energy because it's going to move more the higher it goes, right? So like this has potential energy because if I let it go, it's going to fall. And that same thing, if I hold it higher, now it's got more potential energy, now it's got less potential energy. And that kind of makes sense, right? And then you go like, hey, it's got more potential energy, but now it has less potential energy. And at some point you're like, what the heck are we babbling about? It's the same stupid pencil. And like now it's got more potential, right? Because it could fall further. But now I haven't done anything to the pencil itself, but by bringing the ground up close to the pencil, I've lowered the potential energy of the pencil, right? Because now it's not going to fall as far. And at some point, it just becomes crazy. So all I can tell you, if you ever feel like all of a sudden I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, in number 9, I'm sure you can memorize the definitions. Maximum potential is the most energy that can be stored in a thing. Chemical potential is the energy potential held in chemical bonds. So like lighting this piece of paper would give off a certain amount of heat. That's the chemical potential because combustion is a chemical reaction that gives off energy. Or eating it, if you could digest those carbon bonds, that's chemical potential because digesting it would give you energy. Breaking the chemical bonds. Kinetic energy is like the energy of motion, so that's like how that impacts other bodies in space. Heat energy is, like how much heat does something hold or how much heat can be used for something. The one thing I can remind you, the one thing I can help you with for number 9, I know you can memorize these words, but if you ever feel at a loss for number 9, the one hint, remember that it always refers to a system. So this pencil does not in and of itself have potential energy. It has potential energy in the system where I am holding it 16 inches over my lap. If I change the system, right, now it's 53 inches off the ground. Now it has more potential energy, because I wasn't ever talking about the pencil itself. I was talking about the pencil as part of the system where we have gravity and we have my lap and we have the floor and we have a pencil. Point being that all of these energy discussions and all these terms apply to the system that you're discussing. If you ever feel confused, remember that. And for number 10, I feel like this is kind of a tricky thing to explain because I don't know the right lingo. I'll bet you if you walk up to a physics teacher, they'd be like, oh, that's simple. I just struggle because I don't have the right lingo. So maybe you can Google this or find a better lecturer on YouTube. I apologize. I'm not perfect. But the way I always think about this is high quality energy is energy types that can do a lot of work, whereas low quality energy cannot do work. So if you have natural gas, that's high quality energy because burning natural gas will make a flame that's almost 2,000 degrees. That can do a lot. Right? With a flame at 2,000 degrees, you could fry an egg, you could heat a house, you could melt sand into glass and make yourself a container. You could dispose of the evidence of all your crimes, right? That can do a lot of stuff. But like, you know, if you have like a glass window kind of warming up the cat on the windowsill, like, yeah, that's still heat energy, but now that's low quality because that's not enough heat to fry an egg. That's not enough heat to dispose of any evidence. That's not going to make you a glass bottle. Sure, you can warm the cat, but that's not much. It's not doing a lot. And some lingo that might help. I'm not confident it's the right words, but it's what I always think of. High quality energy is focused and concentrated. Write that down. Focused, concentrated. Whereas low quality energy is dissipated. It's unfocused. That's why it can't do a lot of work, because it's like spread out. And one way to think about this is sunlight hitting the ground is pretty low quality. You can't do a lot. But if you hold a magnifying glass, that'll focus a whole bunch of sunlight on one spot. Now you can like etch wood. You can like light paper on fire. You can mess with ants if you're a sicko. You could burn somebody's skin. Maybe you could even fry an egg if you had a big enough magnifying glass, right? Maybe you heard that they built a weird building that focused lights funny and it melted cars on the sidewalk. The difference is you've taken low quality energy, but you've made it high quality by focusing it, by concentrating it into one place. Think of that visual. All the dissipated sunlight is now being focused into one place. Now it can do more work. Now it's focused. Now it's higher quality. I hope I'm not misleading you. That makes sense in my head. But like I said, these energy terms are not my favorite. Finally, the lowest quality of energy is dissipated heat. It's lost heat. It's heat spreading out. In the universe, this is referred to as entropy or chaos or noise. It is the lowest quality energy that we have in the universe. It can't do anything. If you put your hand over someone's head, make sure you have consent. You don't want to creep somebody out, but if you put your hand over someone's head, you can like kind of feel a little bit of heat. I feel that now. That's the end of my energy pathway. High quality chemical bonds went into my body. My body used up that stuff inside my brain, which is moderately active. My neurons are breaking bonds, doing stuff. and that energy has to go somewhere, so it just keeps going down in quality until it's just heat. That's the end of the chain. Now it's just trash energy. We'll come back to do number 11, but I got to break these up so that you don't get too bored.